Hello and welcome back to a brand new Pick a Side live reaction. We are here after two game sixes of the NBA playoffs. The Knicks advance, beating the Pistons in a thrilling game six victory, and the Clippers have tied the series 3 games apiece, forcing a game seven. We're going to talk about it all. I have Mr. John Tortorelli here with me, joining me tonight, and we also have a guest joining. See, this is your guys' first time meeting him. His name is Rudy, and he has been working for Pick a Side for a while now. All the beautiful clips you see on social media, the Twitter, he's been handling all that, and he's subbing in tonight, and he's gonna make an impact. Rudy Gonzalez, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, guys. Doing good. I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I'm about to pee on myself.
But it's
Yeah.
okay. You know, you get the hang of it. Where we're live in front of 72 people right now. If you're in the stream right now, make sure you guys are dropping a like. But we're glad to have you on. I mean, this is a big night for you. You got the Rockets hat on. You are a Rockets fan. And James Harden just had a spectacular masterclass of a game tonight.
Yeah, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was not expecting that. I defend James Harden a lot, but tonight he shocked me. He wasn't that great in the fourth quarter, but he did enough in the first half and the first three quarters that it didn't matter. And the other guy stepped up. It was a great game.
I feel like that's where we have to start. The Clippers tying this series up 3 games apiece. It felt like they wanted to lose this game in the fourth quarter. They were just terrible with their offensive management and what they were doing in the half court. Harden was dribbling out the clock. Kawhi wasn't flashing to the ball. They played sloppy. What saved them is Avika Zubats, Russell Westbrook bricking some layups right at the rim, and Nicholas Batum was the X factor of the night. John, with this series tied 3 games apiece, you predicted Nuggets in 7.
I
Is
did.
that your final prediction? Are you feeling good about that now?
Well, I always pick a side, and my stance hasn't changed. I will say this game to me was a physical one. It was kind of a good example of how this Clipper team has been one of the toughest tests for Denver defensively. I mean, in this game, Denver hardly got on the offensive glass. And on the other end, they hardly forced any turnovers. I believe it was 6 turnovers for the Clippers in the day, and the Nuggets only had 6 offensive rebounds forced. And because of the fact the Clippers have been the deeper team, they need to win on the margins. Denver, that is. They need to control the game in those aspects, and they didn't tonight. And I felt that, like you highlighted, Nick Batum played a wonderful game defensively. He finished with 5 stocks. And if Ivica Zubats, what separates him from other bigs in the NBA is not only that he's great defending Jokic, he's got even more length. He's similar size. It's the fact that he could also contain Jamal Murray on switches too. And so the two-man game that Jokic and Murray have made pretty much unstoppable versus any other team has been contained in the better part of the series. And then you switch onto the Clipper side, and I felt like this was another example of, in the past, we talk about James Harden a lot, and it's funny that you guys are both two James Harden fans. In those years in Houston where he struggled and was up and down in the postseason in big games, he didn't have the floater package, and he didn't have the mid-range game that he does today. And that ability to put a defender behind him in jail and kind of just control that intermediate space, that's what's allowing him to be a little bit more consistent and a little bit more reliable in the series. I do agree with you, Joel. I felt in the fourth quarter of this game, the Clippers opened the door for the Nuggets to make it a one-possession game. Unfortunately, Denver had a few flubs. They weren't really aggressive taking threes, and I think ultimately they need to be a lot more aggressive and assertive offensively in Game 7. But one thing that really bothered me was how the Clippers' offense was stagnant. You would sit there watching James Harden just dribbling the ball out for 10 seconds in the shot clock. And don't get me wrong, today he played almost the entire game, had no turnovers. He ran the Clippers offense. He was what allowed them to win this game. But I do believe in the fourth quarter, there's too much ISOs, not enough Kawhi, and too much staying around waiting to get in sets. I feel like James Harden is waiting until there's 14, 12 seconds left when he can make that initial move at 16, 18 seconds. And that if that's something they continue doing in Game 7, that could come back to bite them. It felt like they got a little more exhausted in this game, and playing that heavy isolation ball, I think that's something against this Denver team, which has been costly for other teams.
There was this moment where Norman Powell took up a shot with about like 16 seconds left in the shot clock when the Clippers were up about like 3 possessions. And I just didn't know what they were doing. It didn't feel like they were prepared for the moment. They were a little bit nervous, but they got the victory. And Harden, 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists. He is a big reason why they won. And Kawhi had 27, 10, and 5. Norman Powell, this was his best game of the series with 24 points.
Yep.
And Zubac, although offensively he only had 10, defensively, the job he did on Jokic down the stretch, I think is the biggest reason why they won this game. We talked last reaction, John, after the Nuggets beat the Clippers in game 5, that it seems like the Clippers have gotten figured out a little bit. I like that they came with this energy, and I'm gonna stick to my guns. I'm going with Clippers in 7, baby. Listen, James Harden. I have a feeling James Harden game 7 is gonna show up, and you know what that means, Sean. It means if he
What's that
shows
mean?
up, if Kawhi shows up, it means the Clippers are advancing. Rudy,
What it
who do you
means?
got?
Okay.
I got the Clippers, man. I'm not doubting my guy. Today it was different because James Harden, like I've never seen him be this aggressive, like so quick. Like from the beginning of the game, the first quarter, second quarter, he was getting to the rim at will. And normally, like in these older games where people say he's a choker and all this, they say all those things. And I mean, look, I can't really say much other than defend my guy, but he's always relied on that jump shot, and he's not making it. That's when it happens. That's when he has these bad games. But today he got into it early. Everyone else was playing well. Like Nicholas Batum, you talked about him, you mentioned him. Zubac was huge. When Norman Powell had that fast break dunk, I mean, this game, the Clippers wanted this win, and they want to go back for a game 7. So I'm taking the Clippers.
There was this tweet I saw that I wanted to interact with you guys with, because playoff Jamal Murray is a real thing. When you look at every player in NBA history that has been a non-all-star, and you see the career averages and their postseason averages, Jamal Murray has the biggest point per game jump in the history of the NBA. Jamal Murray goes from 18 in the regular season to 24.2 in the postseason. That's a 6.2 difference. Second place is Jim McMillan, 13.8 points to 16.6. That's a 2.8 points per game jump. This is amongst non-all-stars. So Jamal Murray, it's a pretty big landslide in just how big of a playoff performer he is and how much he jumps from the regular season to the postseason. And it brought up this tweet that I saw on Instagram. Jamal Murray in the playoffs, how many players are you taking him over? Prime Russell Westbrook, Jamal Murray or Russell Westbrook?
Prime Russell Westbrook.
Russ is a worse playoff performer, but in a vacuum, who would I take? I mean, I'm taking MVP Russell Westbrook. It's making 34% of his threes as opposed to 30%.
Yeah, it just sounds weird to take Jamal Murray over prime Russell Westbrook. But give me Russ. I'm not gonna take Jamal over him.
I feel like if this was after 2023, Jamal Murray would go over him, but then we saw him not play the best 2024.
Well, if you're taking the best
him.
year, I don't think it's really a debate.
You think it's Jamal Murray?
If you're taking 2017 Russ, where he was a capable shooter and that was his best offensive season, there wasn't really a limitation to his game. So I would say I'd still take Russ. But overall, if you're looking at their entire careers, Russ has been the worst playoff performer than Jamal.
Well, John, let me ask you something, John. Would you replace Jamal Murray, this version of Jamal Murray, with the Russell Westbrook, like with the Paul George teams and the Carmelo teams? Like,
No,
would you take
definitely
Jamal over that version of Russ? Because he was good, but he was at sometimes selling in those series.
Yes. I wouldn't take him over the Paul George iteration of the Thunder. I would not take that version of Russ over Jamal Murray because Murray's a way better fit. And I feel like with Jokic, I mean, Russ on this Nugget team, don't get me wrong, he's left an imprint, but as a number 2, Murray is just one of the best fits you could put next to Nikola. So I'd still go with Nikola, or I'd still go with Jamal if you're going to kind of take Russ after his MVP season.
And now this tweet is not mine, but this tweet says, players I'd rather have Jamal Murray over in the playoffs. Prime Russ, one of the names that I just mentioned to you. Prime Dame.
I'm thinking Prime Dame. I mean, don't get me wrong, he hasn't done much after the first round in the postseason, but it's relative to the role that you're in. If Jamal Murray is number 1 in Portland and Damian Lillard was number 2 in Denver, the conversation wouldn't really be one.
Yeah, I'm just picturing dribble handoffs with Dame, and it's just a lot better, I think.
Prime Derrick Rose.
I mean, got cut so much short, we couldn't fully see it on the big
I got to take
stage.
Derrick Rose.
I mean, this is closer than Prime Russ. I'll go with D Rose here.
Jamal's a better. Oh, go ahead.
You go, Rudy. It's fine.
Well, I was just gonna say Jamal's a better jump shooter for sure, but
Yeah.
Rose had more in his game. He can get to the rim a lot better and more explosive. So I'm a respect D Rose.
Yeah, that's the closest one.
Prime Paul George.
I mean, he was getting called pandemic P at his prime.
Playoff P, pandemic P.
I'm going
Choked in the
PG.
bubble.
Defensively, he's just on a different level. And when you really look at his Indiana years and then his MVP season, he had to get 2 shoulder procedures after that postseason run. Wasn't even healthy then. So I would go with Paul George and give him the benefit of the doubt.
I might take Jamal Murray here because
That's fair.
Jamal
That's
Murray
very
doesn't have to play defense. So Paul George, I'll take Jamal.
Prime Carmelo Anthony.
This is a lot like D Rose. I think it can go a lot of different ways. You're just talking strictly postseason play. After 09 for Melo, I think it's quite clearly Jamal Murray is the better player performer. So I would go Murray here.
2 Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, I just think it's a more seamless fit with Jamal Murray and Jokic, but I don't want to disrespect Carmelo. If you ask me to pair those two together, I'd probably take Melo.
And then the last name is Prime Harden.
Come on, what are we doing?
You shouldn't think about this, John.
This is playoff performers.
Stop scratching your head, John.
Playoff performers. James Harden took the Dynasty Warriors to 7 games with KD.
He shit the bed game 7. And
Yeah, but he was the
did
best
game
player on
for
the
game
team.
7. Listen, I mean, it's not close who's a better playoff performer. But once again, like I said for Dame, Chris Paul goes down those final 2 games in 2018, and James Harden is such a big load. And when you're comparing that to a number 2 is playing off the best player and the best offensive player in the world, you do have to kind of temper your expectations just a little bit. I mean, if you're just strictly looking at the resumes, though, it's clearly Jamal. He's an NBA champion. He's had an incredible final. He's done it in multiple ways. He's been a prolific scorer, as consistent as it gets from a 3-run standpoint. And then in the 2023 run, he was a very good playmaker too. So, I mean, who's the better player? Who would rather have Harden in the playoffs? But who is the better playoff performer? It's clearly Jamal Murray. But I don't think it's too much of a debate.
But next to Jokic, John, James Harden's an elite playmaker.
Yeah, one could argue Harden's play style wasn't really complementary to a player like Nikola Jokic, given the style that he played and how dominant he was on the ball in Houston.
But it's still a pick and roll big. Like when Chris Paul came to Houston, a lot of people, even me, I didn't think it was going to work, but they made it work.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm looking at James Harden in his best years in Houston, where he was, I would say, like at his prime in the playoffs, 26-11, 26. I just have the years from 2013 to 2020, 28 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year sample size.
He just has those. It's really like 2 games. It's the game 6 versus Spurs.
That's more than 2 games.
Well, I'm saying the ones that stand out the most with the Rockets, at least.
There's so many.
5
and lose count of how many games he shit the bed.
Hey, John. People forget game 1 and 2, 2015 versus Golden State. Harden and Steph were going at it, man, and just they would barely lose those games. And I understand the game 5 was horrible. He had like 13 turnovers. In game 6, the couple years later, Ginobili, blocked him from behind. Mm-hmm. So it's those games stand out. And he's also after that, a couple years ago with Embiid, he had the stinker in game 7. So I get it, but he's had some good games too, man, for the most part.
I would say, I mean, the one time that Harden was, and you're seeing it now with the Clippers, he has been very good for them, and he's really established himself as like a top 25 guy. 2012 in the conference finals versus the Spurs is when he played his most consistent basketball. And I think that version of Harden's kind of forgotten about because he helped them kind of push themselves over the edge into the finals in that 6-game series. But in terms of the Rockets' tenure, it was, sure, you look at the production, maybe it evened out a little bit, but just in the biggest games, this is one you could not count on to close the series.
Now, the other game we'll talk about, the Knicks closing out the Pistons, beating them 116-113. The Knicks advance. This game made me very nervous. We were up 11 points in the fourth quarter. Then the final 2-3 minutes, we're down 6 points, and Jalen Brunson has to do his usual fourth quarter heroics. Number one, I want to say this about the Pistons. This was a great first-round series for them, a great playoff debut for a lot of their young players. Not only did Cade Cunningham play amazing, but Asura Thompson was awesome on both ends. He really started to shine these last 2 games of the series offensively. He's been amazing defensively all series long. Jalen Duren played with each game went by. He played with an increased sense of physicality, just grabbing rebounds, being a great pick and roll partner for Cade Cunningham. They deserve a lot of credit. And maybe if Isaiah Stewart is healthy in this series, it could swing things because of how elite of a defender he is. But the Pistons taking a team in the Knicks that had championship aspirations before the season started with the moves that they made. And for the Pistons to be in a rebuild and to go to the wire with the Knicks in this sort of way, the ball bounces a couple different ways. The Pistons might win this series. That's how amazing they were. I just want to give them their flowers first and foremost. What do you guys have to say about the Pistons? I'll start with you, John.
I felt like this series was a valiant defensive effort from them in many different stakes. You saw that they kind of lacked the juice and the firepower alongside Cade. And I felt like that was especially true today, where in the fourth quarter, they claw back and they kind of cut down this double-digit lead into a tight 2-possession deficit. And I felt like what really stood out to me is, like you highlighted, Asura Thompson showing growth. This was someone that missed the first 20-some-odd games of the season with some serious health scares. And progressively, with more minutes this year, he played better. I felt like he should have wrote out the entire fourth quarter. Should never came out the game. I would say there were some moments where you felt like this Piston team felt like a younger team. I mean, your top guys, for the most part, 23 and under. But I would say in this particular matchup, to me, the Knicks kind of got away with one because, once again, late in the game, it was Cade-centric. Tim Hardaway Jr. hit some big shots, Asura 3 for 3 in the fourth quarter, but it felt like there wasn't anyone else you can count on to generate offense. And so when Cade's three-point shot was not falling at all, starts 0 of 8 from 3 in this game, he's going on these headlong drives, and he flubbed a few tough runners, and the Knicks really able to stack the paint. To me, this game kind of does highlight just how much the Pistons could use the development of a Jaden Ivey next year when he's healthy, and someone that can kind of just complement Cade by taking the pressure off of him of being this do-it-all creator. And I think for Detroit, it was a stepping stone for them. But at the end of the series, if I'm a Knick fan, I do look at this offense and say we're not maximizing some of their parts. And they're very fortunate today that Jalen Brunson came back and got one of the toughest shots we've seen this postseason to take the lead, because for all we could have known, this game could have went today to overtime. And I feel like kind of poetic way, the way the Bucks lost versus the Pacers, blowing a lead the other day, it falls into the hands of Gary Trent, who plays a phenomenal game, hitting all his threes. Then he has 2 back-to-back terrible turnovers that cost them the game. And today, Malik Beasley plays quite well, 20 off the bench. What do you know? Cade gets double teamed, kicks out to Malik. He loses the ball in a tough spot. And who knows if he even gets a shot up. But that to me was kind of fitting, a little bit poetic justice there between the two teams. But I would say for Detroit, man, this was a very impressive series. The physicality they played with and many different stretches, they're outplaying the Knicks. To me, it came down to those fourth quarters where the Pistons are able to get that double-digit lead. They're able to get that 7-possession lead, and you feel like they're only able to contain it because outside of Cade, there was no one you can consistently count on. And I feel like for the Knicks, when you invest an extra $50 million into the roster, they're going to have that supporting cast.
Yeah, that last play, man, I felt bad for Malik Beasley. I thought if he caught that ball, he was gonna get up a good look. And the way this series is going, I thought he was gonna knock it down. The Pistons, man, Pistons fans, y'all gotta be super impressed with y'all's selves, with y'all's team this year, man. To go from what last year was to this season, it's not just the development of Cade. I think anybody who watches just basketball, a lot of it, we know how good Cade is. He just needed to have the supporting parts around him. And he had an amazing year. This series ended with a not so good game from him, but I don't think he needs to. I think he needs to hold his head up high and just look forward to the future. Because I was wondering what you guys think. Does Jaden Ivey swing this series at all?
There's a chance. I think you gotta understand. Isaiah Stewart didn't play the majority of the series, and Jaden Ivey didn't play at all. Imagine if they had those two players in this series with the way the Knicks looked for the majority of this series. I mean, there were games that the Knicks won. I would say 3 of them, 3 of the 4 games, the Knicks went into the fourth quarter down. Their third quarters have been abysmal. If you have Stewart's defense, if you have Jaden Ivey putting more pressure on the defense, that could swing the series. It was a real chance. Even without those players, they were right there. I don't think that they were that far off at all.
I would agree. It was kind of funky because Jaden Ivey individually had a great start to the season. He only played 30 games before he got hurt, and in that small sample size, he was shooting the ball incredibly well, 40% from three. But it's also a weird kind of spot where the Pistons did start to play better without him in the lineup. And I don't think correlation necessarily means causation there, because to me, you need a second ball handler. You need someone else that can put pressure on the rim and allow Cade to get easier looks off the ball. I do think he helps improve the odds that they could push this to a game 7. But at the same time, I do think they found a formula with the supporting cast of Tobias and Malik Beasley getting those expanded roles. If Jaden Ivey is getting those 35 minutes a game, those 32 minutes a game, it kind of neuters their opportunity to kind of maximize their play, and they're so critical in this run. But I feel like moving into next year, it's more about having a full regular season for K and Ivy to play together. Because remember, Ivy's rookie season, K misses the entirety of the year, basically. Last year, you have Ivy basically coming off the bench of Monty Williams, and at no point were him and Kate able to build chemistry. And this year, they had that very small, fragmented opportunity to play together. If you give them a full season, I totally believe they could be, a plus. Because this year, they're a -4 with two of them on the court together. I'm sure next year, with the defensive foundation that the Pistons have, and this one makes their future so kind of bright. You have yourself a burning star and a offensive kind of pillar you can build your entire team around, and then one of the league's better defenses. And I feel like just having a full 82-game slate for Ivy and Ausar to develop alongside Cade and build chemistry with him next year at this time, you can see those two guys win a series like this, where this year you aren't really able to see that, especially from Ausar. You saw the progression throughout the series, but you feel like in a year or two from now, especially in Thompson's case, he could be the type of guy that I think does win the series.
There's a reason why when Dennis Schroeder came to this team, he made an immediate impact. It's because they needed another ball handler. And imagine if they had 3. Imagine if they had Ivy, Cade, and Schroeder. That's at all times. You can stagger up their minutes and still have somebody that can initiate offense. Now, what you said about Ausar made me think about what the worst decision of the night was. JB Bickerstaff made the worst decision of the night when going into the fourth quarter, the Pistons were down 11 points. Ausar Thompson played up until the 3-minute mark. They had a 5-point lead, and JB Bickerstaff subs him out. The best defender on the floor, the best defender for Jalen Brunson. And although I know Jalen Brunson ultimately hit the game winner on Ausar, a couple of possessions before, Ausar completely locked up Jalen Brunson. They were having a great battle back and forth. There's just no reason why you take your best defender off the court with 3 minutes left in a game when you were down 11 and then ended up being up 5, in large part to his contributions.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like that was a floor spacing decision, kind of giving him a breather until the last minute, going offense, defense. But in that situation, it's not like he's impacting the game negatively on the offensive end. And anything that he gives in the defensive end outweighs kind of his limitations. I felt the same way, but I feel like at the same time, we kind of look at JB Bickerstaff, and he doesn't have as much experience as a lot of other coaches in these spots. So I feel like in this type of series, we're going up against a coach like Tibbs. I feel like the Knicks did have an edge, and for as much hate as Tibbs has gotten this postseason, hasn't been great. But I mean, I do think the Knicks had a better coach in this series.
Yeah, I just think he was overthinking it right there. JB Bickerstaff, he's got experience. I mean, he started his first coaching with us with the Rockets when we fired Kevin McHale. But I mean, to get to the spot where he's at now, I think maybe he had the jitters and he was overthinking it to, like John said, you're going to bring in more spacing. But Ausar Thompson's movement was good enough to keep him out there. And obviously the defense, like you said, the last play of the game was, it's unfair. You're guarding Jalen Brunson one-on-one on the perimeter. But for the most part, Ausar was doing his thing. And I think Joel brings up a strong point. Like, just leave him in there. Just let him play. Let him finish the game.
I'm looking at the final stats. Ausar had 17 and 6. He had 3 steals and 2 blocks. Can you guess how many minutes he played in this game?
I'll go with 30.
Okay.
33?
He played 22 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
22 minutes.
I felt like the impact per minute was what kind of, it felt like in those 22 minutes, no one made a larger impact.
No, he was awesome. He was -7. Point differential sometimes can be tricky. Tobias was a -23. Malik Beasley had the best plus minus on the Pistons with a +17, even though he had also a major blunder by not catching the ball and not getting up a open look. So it was a great effort by the Pistons. They deserve to be in this situation. There's no doubt about it, and they have a very bright future. On to the Knicks. There's 2 sides to this coin. There's the side of clapping it up and being happy that they were able to get by the Pistons. And then you have the boogeyman on the other side. We're going to talk about the first side first, where Jalen Brunson is the most clutch player in the NBA. There's a reason why he won the Clutch Player of the Year award. He is one of the very best and elite scorers in the NBA. There is not a player at his size, you can argue, over the course of NBA history, that is as skilled as him as a scorer and as efficient as him as a scorer. Looking at the fourth quarter numbers for him, amongst all NBA players in the playoffs in the fourth quarter, Jalen Brunson is number one in fourth quarter points at 66. Cade Cunningham is second place at 43 points. He has 23 more points than second place, and this is not updated for the Clippers and the Nuggets ending, but Kawhi leads that series of fourth quarter points at 40, and then Zubac is at 34. So even they don't come close to Brunson. And Brunson is doing this 50% from the field, 30% from three, but most of his shots are from two, and he went 25 for 50. He had 10 points in this fourth quarter. And you look at the bucket he had on Schroeder, where he pump faked him, he jumped up, he got the layup, and then the game winner, creating that much space on Ausar Thompson, who has such a major height advantage and athletic advantage, the craftiness for him to create that space. People often talk about Brunson's foul baiting. I do think he does foul bait, but in game 5, he only shot 2 free throws and he still came up big in the fourth. In this game, he shot 8 free throws. He averaged 31 in this series. Like Brunson, his ability to uplift the Knicks offense, especially in these high leverage moments, is a big reason why the Knicks are able to even win these games, because without him, they're losing this series. If he doesn't come up as perfect as he did in these fourth quarters, the Knicks don't win this series.
Yeah, that's what they've been able to count on. I think that's kind of what's allowed Tibbs to really have the offense run through him entirely, to a point where it feels like at times they're not involving guys like Cat nearly as much as they should. I feel like Mikal played a great game today, especially down the stretch offensively, and he has been stepping up. And I think that's an important note to have here. But I mean, Jalen Brunson in the postseason this year, 30 points, 8 assists. The efficiency has been solid. 34% from three is not as high as maybe some of his best years in Dallas, but it feels like in those gotta have situations, he's been hitting those clutch shots, and he's creating a lot of separation too. So, I mean, this next series versus Boston, he's going to have his work cut out for him, especially if Jrue Holiday is right for that matchup health-wise. But we've seen in the past, he's been able to uplift himself series after series, even if his team's totally outmatched.
Yeah, man, Brunson was amazing. 40 points, 16 of those points were on threes and free throws. So he was doing the bulk of his work, getting into the paint. Just that mid-range game is crazy. Whenever I watch Brunson play, I just wish and think back that I wish that Allen Iverson had teams like this. Even a team like this Knicks team, it would be crazy to see that, because he never had guys like this. I mean, he had good teams. Obviously, he got to the finals, but I'm just saying, like, I don't want to be disrespectful.
Defensive personnel, but not offensive players. Yeah.
So I just can't. I wish on that. But Brunson was awesome, man. He has everything. He has that moxie. It's games like this where I'm like, can he really be a number one on a championship team? I don't know, but he makes you think about it.
That's been a growing debate, and people are taking victory laps on him not being that. I don't think that players that are 6'1" throughout history can be that historically. There's very few players that were that. Steph Curry 6'3", Isaiah Thomas did it. Like, he needs to have a co-star, but I think he's like right on the border of it. Like, he is that close to it. And I do think if the Knicks somehow like get Giannis, then there's a realistic shot that the Knicks can win a championship.
I think there's a lot of teams hoping to get there. If the Knicks can, in theory, get Giannis, Brunson's number 2 would feed a lot of families. But I mean, that conversation, it goes back to when Becky Hammond said it on television. People came at her with pitchforks, but Chris Paul never won a championship as number 1. He never won a championship yet, and he's between him and Harden, 2 of the best players of the generation. These two have not won a title.
Steve Nash.
I mean, Steve Nash, back-to-back MVP. He took the Suns from a 28 to a 60-win team with an offense that no one could stop for years. Never got to the finals. So I feel like for people to get disappointed that Brunson's not maybe listed or labeled as that type of player, and only 2 guys done in history, I mean, it's really going to be that way until you prove it and kind of defy the odds of history in the NBA.
And it's not a reflection on his greatness because, like you mentioned, there's a lot of players that are that size and haven't been able to do it, but they're all-time greats and they're legends. Mikal Bridges, last 2 games, has taken this sort of leadership role that I haven't expected. Tonight, he was really great. 25 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. He led a layup line at halftime so the Knicks could come out and have a better third quarter because the Knicks' third quarters in this series have been so god awful, and it's been the biggest reason why we've been down going into the fourth. But Mikal Bridges led this layup line, and we had our best fourth quarter of this series. And OG had 20 points as well, and he shot the ball well, 22 points, 4 for 10 from 3. Cat really didn't make much of a contribution on offense, 10 points, but he had 15 boards. That's where he was making his contributions. Mitchell Robinson, there was a play with Mikal and Mitchell Robinson that I want to talk about because the Brunson game winner would not have happened if it wasn't for those two. Brunson goes to the basket and misses a layup. Mitchell Robinson sealed out the lane. And because he sealed out the lane, Mikal Bridges was able to crash the glass and tip the ball in. And that essentially tied the game up. Had it not been for that, this game winner doesn't happen. And I think Mikal Bridges over the last 3 or so games has really made his mark on this team and has been playing better. And it leads to the next question of, do the Knicks have any sort of chance to beat the Boston Celtics? Even though they got past the Pistons, I feel like the consensus morale of the Knicks is down because it's like it took it this long. It was this hard to beat the Pistons, with all due respect, but it was this hard.
I
Yeah,
don't
I'll
think
tell
they
you
have
what,
any chance.
it's going to be tough sledding. I mean, we'll see what Drew Holiday's hamstring looks like. Obviously, misses the last few games of that Magic series. If Drew Holiday is on the floor for game 1, you guys are going to have a very physical team you're going up against. And after game 2, Jason Tatum played at the level of a superstar against that Orlando defense, which is top 2 in the NBA. And you're going up against the most versatile wing in the NBA, and you're also going up against the best duo. And Orlando brought a level of physicality which challenged the Knicks, or which challenged the Celtics. I apologize. I'm shot after finals all week. The Knicks, last year, they brought that with Isaiah Hartenstein and Dante DiVincenzo. There is a different culture and different level of camaraderie that this year has come and gone. It does not feel the way it did last year. And the question is really, can the Knicks match that level of physicality that Boston is going to bring? I think the answer is no. And Jalen Brunson, he takes 33 shots in this game, plays a wonderful game, 40 points, 7 assists. Shout out to Santos in the chat. He asked, has Brunson passed Melo? I understand Carmelo's return in New York was a euphoric moment. Yes, Jalen Brunson has passed Melo as a Knick with what he has done the last 3 years. But when you look at this Celtics matchup, with the idea of a healthy Porzingis, I think he plays better against the Knicks than Orlando. And to me, I just feel like the Magic matched up better.
If Trae Young can get games off the Celtics, the Knicks can definitely get at least one. Like I said, they have no chance, but I do think they'll get at least one,
Well, if
maybe
it's a
2.
I'm not- they're
5-game
not gonna
series, they
sweep.
got no
Yeah,
chance.
I'm not telling you.
So what do you guys think the series is going to be? You think it's a 5-game series?
I think it's a competitive 5 to maybe a lukewarm 6.
Wow. So 5. It's no chance at all.
I'm not saying they ain't got no chance, but
That's no
Trae
chance.
Young's a
If you
Celtic
lose at
killer.
5,
That's what
there's
he is.
no-
He's
you
a
got no
playoff riser
chance.
just like Brunson too.
The more I watch Jalen Brunson, the more I want to say 6 games, but 5 just sounds right. Yeah, I just think the Celtics, they have their number for the Knicks. I think they've only won 1 game against them in the last 2 years.
Yeah, the Celtics are 8-0 against the Knicks over the last 2 years. But this year, first game, the Celtics beat us 132-109. Second game, 131-104. They have been blowing us out. Third game, 118-105. It was a close game, and then it kind of got away from us. They won by double digits. Last game, 119-117. That means that the Knicks, each game, they're getting closer and closer to beating the Celtics, which means, John, the Knicks are taking game 1 of this series.
I mean, you have to at some point. You're 0-7 this year versus the Cavs, the Thunder, and the Celtics. I do think that the Knicks can in certain stretches making competitive affair, especially if Mikel's playing the way he did the last 2 games. I think that's an important note here because you know what you're getting from OG Anunoby. Cat is a pretty big X factor, and I feel like he's going to be up and down. That's kind of the story of Karl-Anthony Towns in the postseason. You know what you're getting from Brunson, and you don't have a whole lot of depth. To me, it comes down to Mikal Bridges. They push this series to 6 games. If he plays a good, consistent two-way series where offensively he's being consistent and productive, especially around the rim inside the arc, I could see it being a little more competitive, but it just comes down to physicality for me, especially when we watch the first round, when you watch Nuggets Clippers, when you watch Celtics Magic. Officials are letting you get away with far more. And I don't think I talked about today. In the Nugget game, they took 9 free throws. You look at the Celtic Magic games, it's been similar where they're letting you play through contact. I don't look at this Knicks team and think they can match that level of intensity that Boston is going to bring.
And I don't think the Knicks have the level of physicality that Orlando brings to a series with that level of chippiness. The Knicks last year were much more of a tougher team with Isaiah Hartenstein and Dante DiVincenzo. Mikal Bridges is sort of blossoming into that, where he is becoming more of a vocal leader for the team. The hardest projection about this series is that in order for the Knicks to have a chance, everybody has to be A plus. Brunson has to be A plus. Cat has to be A plus. Mikal has to be A plus. OG has to be A plus. And Josh Hart has to hit threes. And we have to have contributions from our bench. When you think about it like that, and you look at all the things that have to go right for the Knicks, I don't think the Knicks have much of a chance with the way that they struggled versus the Pistons. And with the way that they played offense against Detroit, they were down in 3 or 4 of their wins against Detroit in the first round. They were down heading into the fourth quarter. With the way that New York plays offense, it's isolation centric. You don't think that the Celtics going to live with Brunson going one-on-one on Derek White and Drew and Tatum and Jaylen Brown? Yeah, we'll live with that.
Cool with that.
Ice out all of your teammates. Just go one-on-one. We'll live with your shot selection. That's what I think is going to be the toughest thing for the Knicks. And the Knicks have shown me no signs of having a creative, free-flowing offense. It's not a rhythm-based offense at all. It's very isocentric. And I think that falls perfectly into the Celtics' hands. And unless we're getting Herculean series from everybody in the Knicks starting 5, it's going to be pretty much impossible to beat the Celtics.
Well said.
Yeah. It's just unfair with the Celtics because it doesn't matter who's guarding Brunson. The next guy over, like from Tatum to Brown, everyone, they can all guard the other guys. It's not like you don't have to put your best defender on. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't like Brunson. He's going to see one of 4 elite defenders at all times. And then, like you mentioned, yeah, okay, we could put Drew on OG or Derek White on OG. Like it doesn't matter who guards anybody else. They kind of have their thing.
But Drew on Cat.
Yeah, I mean, you could even put a smaller guy on Cat because of how he struggled against those type of matchups, and he hasn't been able to impose his will. Cat has played well in this series, but looking at his game log, game 1, 23-11, game 2, 10-6, game 3, 31-8, game 4, 27-9, game 5, 17-11, and game 6, 10-15. 3 games in this series under 20 points. 3 games in this series over 20 points. That's just not going to be enough against Boston. And the way that Tim Hardaway Jr. had moments against us in the first round, I mean, Kristaps Porzingis, I feel like has been out for revenge on the Knicks for a while now, and getting to do it in a grand playoff stage, I'd be really shocked if Porzingis doesn't have a great series.
Yeah, it feels like it's coming because he struggled so much to start their Orlando matchup. And first, Karl-Anthony Towns, that's a way better matchup than Orlando's front court.
Yeah, so you could go, Rudy, go.
I was just gonna say to give Orlando credit. I mean, I don't want to disrespect them because they played well, but I think Boston was playing a level down, and they're gonna take it up against the Knicks.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a great point because I just feel like with the Knicks and the Celtics are kind of out to prove a point against them every time they play, because the Knicks in the offseason were in conversations with, hey, maybe you can be as good as the Celtics and give them a fight. And Orlando just never felt kind of in that conversation just yet. So they didn't feel like a legitimate threat. And the Knicks, not saying they did feel like a threat throughout the season, but the Celtics, I feel like they're playing a level up, like you mentioned. And I think we covered all bases. The Clippers forcing a game 7 versus the Nuggets, the Knicks advancing, the Knicks chances against the Boston Celtics. We have 256 people in this live stream right now. Make sure you guys like this live stream and subscribe to the channel. We don't have any super chats, so we're going to end this stream right here. We appreciate everybody that popped out to the stream, to the live stream. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Pickside Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pickside Podcast. I want to thank John and Rudy for being on here. Thank you guys a lot. We'll see you guys next time.